Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Friday Forum. My name is Elvin Buku, and I serve as the Deputy Director with the Foundation for Tacoma Students. Our foundation's mission is to build and strengthen the Graduate Tacoma community-wide movement of over 350 community partners to help every child achieve success from cradle to college and career. As part of our organization's response to COVID, Friday Forums was launched in an effort to provide relevant and locally focused information and resources to our community partners and families. And if you tuned in last week, you heard from our Superintendent, Carla Santorno, on the state of Tacoma schools, the state of which obviously is entirely remote at this point, which leads us to kind of follow up with that. This week's topic is around engaging learners online, which we all know is becoming kind of a new normal for us all. I also want to acknowledge that it isn't just our students who are learning how to engage in this way. It's educators, mentors, parents, myself, our team. We're kind of all learning how to do all this together. I do also want to note that the crisis isn't impacting our families in necessarily the same ways. The disparities that existed before all this are even more apparent now, which just highlights the need to continue to target supports to areas of our communities and families that need them most. And I will touch on that a little bit more later. But today, I have the honor of serving as moderator for a panel of community partners, all working to engage our learners online in different and innovative ways across the cradle to career spectrum. And I would like to introduce our panelists now. Be joining us on screen. All right. So first, we have Alyssa Torrez, who's with us from KBTC Public Television. And I'd ask you to wave so that everybody knows who they're looking at. And so she's going to be speaking kind of to how and why KBTC engages in the early learning space and some resources available through KBTC. So Alyssa, thank you for being here. I'd like to introduce Andre Stout, who is principal at Truman Middle School with Tacoma Public Schools. Andre, thank you for being here.
How's it going today?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Andre's going to be speaking kind of towards new structures, ways he's thinking about engaging students, as well as his teachers who are in that space, what have been some of the challenges in reaching students in order to maintain the progress, and then some learnings potentially from his end. So Andre, again, thank you for being here. And last but not least, we have Rachael Mead with Enhanced Prep. Rachael, thank you for being here. She's going to kind of give us an overview of Enhanced Prep strategy to online tutoring. She's worked really closely with our Tacoma College Support Network in various strategies for both program providers and parents to implement ways to support teachers in their student learning, in addition to some of the tools available for high schoolers and graduates who are entering college. So Rachael, thank you again for being here as well. And thank you to all panelists. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa to kick us off.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Elvin, and everyone at Graduate Tacoma for having me on this panel and just giving us the opportunity to share some of the resources that we've been putting out to support students and families during this time where we're forced to stay at home. I am Alyssa. My name is Alyssa. I'm with KBTC. I'm the Community Engagement Manager there. So I oversee all of our education and outreach initiatives, which is very important right now. And if you guys aren't familiar with KBTC, we are the PBS station for Tacoma, Pierce County, and much of Western Washington. So we are on your air if you have watched any Sesame Street, Curious George, all that kind of stuff. And so this is something that we do year round all the time. So it's not exactly new to us, but we have tweaked some of the ways that we're doing our outreach and what we're providing during this kind of different time. So at PBS, we've always believed that any time is learning time, and that includes any out of school time, after school programs, events, trainings and things out in the community, and also at home. So we know that if you're watching PBS Kids content, you're getting an educational experience. So we're still doing that, but we are doing some new things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list and talk about some of the different on-air and online elements that we have available. And at the end, if I have some time, I can show you some of those things on our website where to access them. And then I'll have a screenshot of where you can access these things. So some URLs, an email address, and some information on even where to watch us on air, because it's different depending on where you're at and what your kind of service provider is. So we'll get to that at the end. So just to kind of reiterate our on-air stuff, so we have 7 hours of educational content that we air every day through our PBS Kids block. And that is geared towards the ages of like pre-K through maybe like a 3rd or 4th grade kind of age. And that covers all subject areas from literacy, STEM, social emotional skills, and building those, and you know, life sciences, earth science, and all that kind of stuff. So every show that we air, from Curious George to Nature Cat and Odd Squad, all have an educational component, and they all have the learning objectives along with those. So what we're doing, because a lot of people are familiar with PBS, but they don't know necessarily that there are lessons and activities and curriculum that go along with these programs. So it's great to watch the programs in and of themselves, but what we're trying to encourage families and students to do at home is to take it a step further and engage with the PBS Kids content beyond just watching it on your screen, right? So on air, we're continuing our PBS Kids block daily from 11 to 6. And then online, we're gonna be pushing people online with little messages either in between the programs themselves or even during the program. So if you're watching Curious George, there might be something that comes on the screen and says, when you're done watching this episode, head to PBS Parents to do the build a pinwheel activity. And there'll be an activity there, either an online game that you can play or something you can print out or something you can make and do together to kind of reinforce those learning objectives that were shown in the episode. So that's great. What we've added is something for our 6th through 12th grade students, because we know that our PBS Kids age is a little bit younger. So on our secondary channel over the air, we've added some programming Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. that's specifically for those 6th to 12th grade students. And it's the same idea where there's PBS content, and that's like Nova, American Experience, Masterpiece, and then it has linked educational content from PBS Learning Media. And PBS Learning Media is a free online resource that teachers, parents, caregivers, anyone can use and access, and it gives little clips and resources and activities and lessons for that's connected to any PBS content. So say you're watching Nova and it's about space and a black hole, and then it'll link specifically to a lesson on learning media that is aligned with Common Core and gives an activity and a lesson to do that, again, reinforces that learning that you started while you're watching TV. So I'll show you at the end where to find that, but that's on air already. We started this week, so you can watch and learn alongside that. And then last but not least, as Elvin mentioned, there's still some kind of disparities in how people are able to access technology and these digital and online resources. So we haven't forgotten about that, and that we know that not all learning happens online or on TV, and especially now. So as equity continues to be an issue, we are still providing activities and materials in person. So that looks like we have some meal sites that we're giving some grab and go meals and activity kits. So people can still access the materials and do them some hands-on kind of learning at home, but then also ties back to the on-air pieces. So I just want to show a really quick example of one of the lessons that you can find online. So this is like a printout that is online, but it's also a hands-on activity that goes along with a book. And then we also give like the materials that you need. And all the materials of all the activities are things that you can find at home. It's not like you need crazy science experiment stuff like beakers and chemicals and weird things, but it's just kind of reiterating the fact that learning can happen at home in really simple and easy ways. And it's something as simple as making a rocket out of a bottle or something like that. So we're giving them out in person. You can access them online, and we're reminding you where to find them as you watch on air on our channel. So I think I'm coming up on time. I do want to see if I can screen share this just to kind of show you guys some of our websites of where you can find this stuff. So our kbtckids.org website is where you can find all of the information on all of our meal sites, all the websites where you can find our stuff, some of the activities. And then kbtc.org is just our overall website. So if you're looking for where to like tune in or where to find us, you can find that there. If you have any questions, you can just email the kbtckids@gmail.com, and I will get back to you and link you directly to where you need to go. And then just really quickly, the great thing about PBS is that you can find us anywhere. You don't have to have cable or anything. It's free over the air or online or carried on cable. So there's some of the channels that you can find us on. But yeah, I think that is my time for now. And yeah, I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. Alyssa, thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely appreciate the equitable approach with regard to not only online resources, but pairing that with physical resources as well. So appreciate your time. And we will have, for those listening, we will have time for some Q&A. We have some preloaded questions based on the form that everybody filled out, but we'll want to give some time for each partner to be able to answer some questions there. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it to Andre to talk a little bit about the middle school space.
Evening. So with the middle school, and I think we all are seeing the same challenges because we meet as middle school principals, and we're seeing the same challenges. We're trying to get education and get resources out to kids, but we have worked really hard. It's kind of changing. I mean, it's changing what we do. We work really hard to isolate ourselves from what happens outside of the school. That's part of what we do, is that we can't make excuses about what happens outside of school. We just got to make it happen inside of school. Now we got to try to make it happen outside of school, where we know how difficult it is for certain kids to even just get online, or parents even contact us. So we're doing some need assessments, I guess what you would call it. We do some need assessments, and our teachers are trying to calculate how many kids are truly contacting us through technology, through the media, and we're trying to track that so we can start figuring out what kids are not getting in touch with us at all. I think we're getting about a 25% engagement rate for us, kids who are saying that. But what we ask them to do is say, I got it. We email them on Monday, our lessons, not the stuff that the district pick up, our teachers' lessons. The teachers ask them to just reply, I got it. And at this point, we're getting 25% of our students replying, I got it. So now we're trying to calculate who those kids are so we can start trying something new, probably using mail. Because the technology, as great as it is, it's not going to reach everyone. So we're trying to figure out how can we reach everyone. Put together a phone list, and then a mail list. Start just trying to mail stuff out to kids in the mail to see if we can reach them like that. But I think the whole bottom line is it's just a new way of doing business that no one was ready for. It went from using distant learning. Remote learning was sort of like an option for some schools, used it for homework and things like that. Now we look at remote learning may be a necessity in our future. That we may have breaks in education like we have right now today, where kids are not in school for 40, 50, 60 days. And what do we do to access everyone? And that's a challenge. I mean, I don't know what to do exactly. That's a challenge when you get 25% of your kids responding to lessons that teachers going sending out. I think that's pretty much the rate of all of us. All the 9 middle schools are kind of seeing a little bit of about 20 to 30%.
Andre, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Could you, it's a little bit scratchy on our end. It might be because the mic is in your sweatshirt, potentially. Very sorry for interrupting your flow.
It is. Can you hear me better without this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just go it out. Yeah, so we're just trying to figure out what best ways, what avenues we can serve our most needy kids, and this has really brought it to the forefront that we have to change the way we do business, and it's going to be a challenge for everyone. It's going to be a financial challenge. It's not something that the district turn around. So we got to go buy computers for 50,000 kids, and as well as hotspots. So, because you can give them the computers, but if they don't have internet at home, you still got an issue. So I think that all of this stuff going to be a part of a need assessment. I just got to take a statistic test for my PhD. And that was part of what I wrote is that I think districts all over the United States going to be doing need assessments to figure out exactly what do we need to do to bring in one-on-one programming into our schools. And what do we need to do to make sure if we have another situation like this, that every kid has access, and we can kind of make sure that we did our part to get it out to the tool. Because right now, we're only reaching the kids who have, and we're not reaching the kids who don't have. And that's a concern to all of us, is that we're growing the achievement gap today at the rate we're moving right now. So that's pretty much how, what's going on with us in our world. We're just struggling. I mean, we really are. I made a joke the other day that, I'm in a doctorate program. No one ever gave me a class on how to administrate during the pandemic. I mean, the message changes every single day. You see it from a national standpoint. They have a news conference every other day, something that's new. And so that's what we just kind of going by the seat of our pants every day. We're trying something, but we are intentionally, as a group of Tacoma Middle School principals, all trying to figure out how can we reach our kids we know we're not reaching right now. We're all doing different type of tabulations and figuring out who are responding and how to get to those ones who are not. So that's what we're doing right now.
All right. Very much appreciate that, Andre. Thank you for that perspective. Feel for you. I mean, I think that's part of the intent, at least for us as a foundation, trying to figure out the different communication channels that need to be popped up, or ones that don't exist and need to exist because families are in different circumstances. But to you and your staff and all the teachers out there, we do appreciate the creativity and innovation and all the things that you're doing. Yeah, in addition to your perspective.
Yeah, and our district has been incredible. Print those packages out that they print out from preschool all the way through 12th grade and deliver them at the middle schools. To make sure kids are getting it. That's one way to try to do it without using technologies, is having a central location. So we have 9 central locations with work going out, but we're not getting feedback on who bringing them, who picking them up, who return them. So we kind of got to figure out how to track that also. But at least the district is doing an incredible job of providing resources to parents and kids, so they can just keep their brain flowing and not just go into 6 months of no schooling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you, Andre, for your perspective. We'll do a little bit of Q&A at the end of this time, but appreciate you being here. With that, I'm actually going to pass it on to Rachael with Enhanced Prep to kind of talk through a little bit of the high school space moving into the post-secondary.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for a moment. Make sure that is coming through for you. Elvin, if I could get a heads up that my screen is sharing for you.
Yep, looks good.
Fantastic. This is one of the great annotation tools that we use, and this is Kami, K-A-M-I. We do pay $99 a year per instructor for a pro version, and that gives them access to sharing with up to 150 students each. There is a free version of this as well too, or it's also something that you can certainly use with in-house if you just want to get one version of the pro and share with your other learners, but it's great this way. Some of the things that I really appreciate that we're able to do, we can come in here and we put in text box reminders if we want to be able to do that. If there's something important that we want to make sure that we're underlining or highlighting, captivating within a particular sentence, we have the ability to highlight. We have up to 9 different colors available in the palette. You can also come in and customize with that. We also have the ability to come through and do some actual drawings within diagrams as we want to do that. One of the other great things about Cami is I have the ability to share my document with anybody else. So for example, if I'm working with a student, I can share this document directly with them that allows them to annotate at the same time that I'm annotating in here. So I can say, all right, I'm gonna work in blue and have you work in green, and they can be putting in their notes and drawing and highlighting and all of these things at the same time as well. Say we're working on this log problem, and we know that they're struggling to remember their log rules, for example. If I have my log rules handy, then I can just come through and copy and paste image or formulas or anything like that that I want to directly into my document. If I need to capture a picture that I want to do that way, it makes it fast and easy rather than having to type it all back out for the students as we're going through. When we're done with a lesson, we have the ability of printing these Cami notes with all of our annotations directly on it so that we share that back with the students when we're done. This makes it really useful to, instead of having the students worry about getting things down on paper or missing something during instruction, this is the way that it's like, all right, I want you to focus, I want you to ask questions. If you want to jot something down while we're working together, great, but we know not everybody's comfortable with that. But this way we're sharing these annotated notes directly back out with the student or students afterwards to make sure that they're using this to work on their Quizlet or write out their flashcards or have for their study tools for their upcoming tests if we're working on that. If we're working with a student on a drop-in homework support program like we're doing with MDC or some of our other programs, and we don't already have what they're working on, they can snap a picture of it with their phone and either text or email it over to us. So this is an example that I have here, and you can see, all right, this is a picture that they just sent over to their email. Right here in Cami, I have the ability to come in and rotate it. I can zoom out a little bit so that I can make it more visual. And then we can come through and we can do our direct work right here on the screen, working with whatever handout the student has. Be like, okay, how are we going to work on combining these things? What are we doing here? So that we have direct access to exactly what the student has, pencil and paper style or hard copy style, directly in front of them to make that transmission very easy rather than the student trying to read out their problem. Great, snap a picture, send it over, let's get it up and let's get it going so that we're able to work on this together. So Cami is really useful that way. It's by far, we've been doing remote instruction for years now. It's definitely the #1 tool that we found while we were busy exploring what we wanted to use in Zoom in order to make it more engaging. So that is definitely one of my recommendations. Another one of the things that I was asked to present on was what we can do to help kids, teens in particular, deal with what they're facing, right? They're probably having to adapt in many ways a lot more than we are, to be honest. They have a lot more uncertainty going on. They're missing out on a lot of opportunities. So we have a great article on our website. I'll definitely put that in the chat for you as well too. But this is also written by one of our partners that's really dealing with what students are facing as they're trying to get ready for the next steps of moving on to college. And just remember that school looks different. That's the biggest thing right now. They're not going to be busy for 6 or 7 hours. There's going to be a lot more independence that has to happen with regards to their schoolwork. So we have some great pointers on here. And since we don't necessarily always have a set schedule, it's important to keep in mind what works best with students. Some students, that's going to be early in the morning. Other students, that's going to be later in the evening. Some we know are best after exercise or after a meal. So keep that in mind when you're really working with your teen in order to try and help them navigate the uncharted territory that they're facing. I'm going to switch my screen one more time here. and move over to our free events and workshops. We do offer multiple free events and workshops every single month where students are able to join us directly in this Zoom platform with all of our sessions. In addition to the students getting the annotated notes, when they attend, they also get the recording of the session so that they can come back and replay that, listen to instruction again, watch us work through the problem again. So you can see right now, first and foremost, we've got a geometry super review coming up on the 19th. That's this Sunday. You can just click on the view details directly from our website, get some more information on that. It does happen to be from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. This is designed around the geometry topics that come into play on the PSAT, SAT, ACT. But right now I'm also working with some geometry students that are just taking it as a class. And there's definitely going to be some great concepts in here that help them navigate that more as well too. Review of formulas, great refresher of techniques. So students just enter their first and last name, email, name of their high school, organization, middle school, if by chance, you know, they just want to get ahead with something. We have grammar, charts and graphs, algebra, reading comprehension, as well as things more specific to the SAT and ACT. These are open to anybody and everybody around the country, and we can take up to 300 students per session. So please share these resources out. They can be found directly on our website, which is just enhanceprep.com. Click on our upcoming events tab. And then the last thing that I did want to share for those of you that are working to find ways to motivate, support, engage with your students. One of the really fun things that we have, because our team is remote, every single one of our team members does work in a different state. We're not in the same room. So we started using kudo boards for recognition, appreciation, birthdays, thank yous, anything that way. And you're able to put a little meme in here. You can link to a YouTube video, whatever you want to do. But if your team wants to support a student, or maybe you're like, okay, we can't have a yearbook or recognition at graduation, but maybe we can get the teachers to come back and, you know, all 6 teachers for a particular student, put a little note in here that we're able to share with them, right? That way you're not having to pass a hard copy or something around. But this is a really fun way for your team to come back through and help support and do some recognition for your students while you're dealing with doing it remotely. So I'll go ahead and stop there. And again, I know we have some time for Q&A, but I do want to be respectful of my 10 minutes. So I'll pass it back over to you, Alvin.
Thank you very much, Rachel. That's awesome. Love the meme game, love the GIF game. It's the way that we need to interact, and it's evolving as we speak. So appreciate you sharing all of that. There was one question that came up specific, I believe, to your section, Rachel, about cost and what's free for students. Could you kind of touch on that a little bit before we go into general Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the workshops that we have advertised on our website are completely free. So that 2-hour geometry review is completely free. Again, the students get the annotated notes and the recording of the session. On average, we have anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of free events on any given month. So there's definitely lots of things to take advantage of. For those of you that are pursuing school on your own, we also have free GRE events too. So you can look for those as well. Cami, there is a free version of that for people to work with. It has a few of the features locked, such as it doesn't have the equation writing tool or some of that, but there is a free version of that as well. Again, for us, we spend the $99 a year, and that allows one instructor and then up to 150 students to have free use of it. So that one instructor gets to share out 150 student versions of that pro account too.
Nice. Thank you very much, Rachel, for those details. Okay, yeah, so we did hold some time toward the end of this webinar to go through Q&A. And again, I had mentioned we had some preloaded questions based on registration. So I kind of want to go through those questions, and I'll popcorn it out to our panelists just to get your perspective. And again, I appreciate very much not only the perspective, but different tools that you're using and hard resources that you're sharing today. So both are valuable. But I'm going to go with the first question, and I'll direct this first to Alyssa. But regarding your perspective on what is a healthy amount of screen time for youth, and is there a danger of too much time online? We'll go with Alyssa first.
I get this question a lot because obviously I work for a media organization, and we obviously promote the use of media and technology in an educational setting. So there's not one clear, like, this is what it needs to be. It depends on obviously the age of your child, what you're working on. But generally for PBS and some of the media professionals that I work with, we follow or we read a lot of and follow the guidelines of like the American Academy of Pediatrics, which kind of like has a rule of thumb of like a 2-hour max for younger kids over the age of 2. And that's like a daily on all screens. So that's like TV, a tablet, a phone, or things like that. Obviously in these times when we're spending more time at home, that is probably going to change a little bit. And so what I usually tell parents, and when I'm kind of reiterating it now, is it's not so much about the amount of time that you spend online or in front of screens. It's really focusing on what you're interacting with. So what types of media are you interacting with? Is it a YouTube video? Is it, an Angry Birds type situation? Or is it high quality content that's from PBS or another trusted kind of educational source? So what are you interacting with and how? So one of the things that PBS really stresses is that we're not just encouraging, you to plop your kids in front of the TV and watch the full 7 hours of PBS Kids content, but we're really talking about this idea of co-viewing. It's similar to what you would do on a story time as you're reading a book and you pause to ask questions. You, as a parent or a caregiver, are engaging with your students as you're watching the show. So similar things is like asking questions. What do you think is going to happen next? Or why do you think that happened? As you're watching Cat in the Hat, kind of explore a new concept. So it's more, and luckily we're at home and we can do this a little bit more. And so we can engage with our students and kids as we're watching and as we're playing even a game online, asking kids to answer the questions or kind of talk through their reasoning for why they're picking something in a game. So while there's not like a concrete, like you should only be spending this much time, and it's hard to do right now, we're at home, just paying more attention to the quality of the content and how you're engaging with the content with your students.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. I'm going to popcorn that to Andre for middle school. And I do want to check the audio too, Andre.
Okay, I've never really thought about that as an administrator, but I have thought about it now. Because with technology in school, we always, at least I've always looked at it, we use it when it makes things better. We just don't use it just to use it, but if it makes things more efficient and more effective for kids learning, then we use it. Because we still got to stand up and teach, so we can't use it all the time. But at home, I have 2 grandkids who live with me, and we say, we teach them how to use a computer, but we teach them how to learn with the computer. Mm-hmm. That's the thing I think the parents got to be cognizant of when we got 2 or 3-year-old kids who can work computers just like we can, but they can't open it up. They can open it up and watch a video or YouTube, but they can open it up and go to a math program and start doing 1 + 1 is 2. So we have to start now, especially now that they're at home more and they are on the computer, that they gotta, I just don't know maximum screen time, but they gotta have some screen time where they're doing stuff that's using technology to learn, not how to use technology. They're technology native, they were born with this stuff, and they just want to do it, but we have to make sure that they're using it the right way. And sort of like Alyssa said, what are they using? They just play a video game there. No, they don't need to be on that screen time. And in school, we just don't need it in Netflix all the time either. If it makes it more effective, more efficient for their learning, then we put it out there. So that's my opinion of it. So, but amount of time, I'm not sure. Because that's their life. It's easier for us who didn't have computers when we were growing up. So it's too much. It's too much. I don't know. I don't know. It may be screen time for the rest of our life.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Maybe in the future, we might be walking around with something in our face and just kind of keep us on TV.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not going to put anything out there, but yeah, that seems to be potentially a reality. But
Yeah.
that's why we're talking about it, right? And
Yeah,
Andre, I still think there's still something going on with your audio a little bit, at least on my end. But I'm going to pass it to Rachel to talk through a little bit. Same kind of question, high schoolers.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think there's a big difference right now between screen time that's devoted to learning versus screen time that's devoted to recreation, downtime type of thing. And it's important to help students create the boundaries around which is which, right? One of the big things that's important is if it's learning time, let's make sure we're maximizing the space that you're in, the mind frame that you're in. Let's make sure that distractions are limited to really let's get in, let's get out and be done. And then if it's recreation time and you're Instagramming or TikTok or whatever it is with your friends, let's make sure that that's designated for this time as well. And there definitely needs to be a break in between that. We highly recommend that students never spend more than 2 hours in the same zone, in the same setting, without having a good mental break, physical break, some type of stretching that they're doing, getting the blood circulating, transitioning to another activity.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. Thank you, Rachel, for that perspective. I'm going to go to a second question here. So you all shared some resources that you're making accessible to students. How do our partners and families and parents ensure that the online resources are credible, provide sound academia for students, and that they're kind of aligned to what they should be learning to? Or how do you approach that? And I'll start with Alyssa.
Well, I might be a little bit biased because I work for an organization that does provide high quality learning resources for, early learners, not just early learners, but, all students and adults all together. And what I will kind of reiterate is I don't just say that because that's a thing to say. Most of all of the PBS Kids content that goes on air and then the accompanying activities and online games are all designed with parents and educators along the way. So they're designed by educators, they're designed by teachers, and then they're tested. So it's not just, we're just designing something on an app and just getting it out there to sell and make some money, or most of them, they're all free anyway, so we don't make any money off it. But it's making sure that that the source is trusted. And if you can do a little bit more research, seeing how those resources and how those things were developed. An example is the shows like Curious George is developed over in Boston that has a team of educators that helps inform what the learning objectives are for that show, making sure that they're age appropriate for whatever the audience of that show is, and then helps to develop those like hands-on learning activities and lessons alongside educators to make sure that they are appropriate, that they're high quality, and the learning goals are being met through those activities and through those things. So maybe it might take a little bit of research to see where those things come from. Luckily, we have great resources in our community of trusted educators and organizations that are putting out this high quality content. So just being aware of that. I know if you just Google things, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. So maybe starting with a place like PBS and kind of going out, because PBS has, I know I'm talking a little bit focusing on the early learning stuff, but there is learning resources for across the entire spectrum of ages and abilities and everything for all students. So PBS, again, awesome. But yeah, just do a little bit of research and make sure you trust the source.
Nice. Thank you, Alyssa. Andre, let's try one more time. Let's see. So question being, how do we navigate online resources and make sure that the resources are credible and providing sound academia?
Can you hear me now? I cut it off and rebooted.
Oh, I think we're there. There.
Okay. So that's a challenging one for educators because that's what my mailbox is full of. I mean, I have my focus mailbox from the district, and I have my other mailbox that comes in from outside of the district, and it's probably 60% of it is digital learning materials, online resources, And, when we do decide that one looks good, we kind of do a little vetting with it and see if we can go and do some history check, or they have any kind of statistical analysis on it, if they did any work and actually did some statistical analysis on it. We look for stuff like that, or start calling around from other testimonies to see if anybody else can use it. But there's so much out there. And one of my classmates, she works, I think it's called Intuit. And so I've been getting Intuit emails, because Intuit now is doing everything free just to get you to use it now. So I'm getting a lot of free sources, which we may try to use some of those things now while they're free. It's just our kids out and see how they work, but because there's a lot of stuff popping up now that they're just trying to let us use free to assist us with this. But when it comes to buying stuff, to purchase online material, I think you can get it bad. You have to do some analysis and see what the statistics says about that stuff.
Appreciate that, Andre. I may have spoke too soon too. It got a little scratchy towards the end, but I'm going to pass it to Rachel. Kind of same question.
This is really a tough one in terms of establishing that credibility whenever possible. And I know it's not. Attend the first session or the first lesson, or take a look at it with your student in terms of what that content is coming up. If you're not able to do that, then we always recommend asking questions such as, teach me one thing that you learned today, right? That's a great way for the students to come back and help reinforce what they did learn. And at the same time, if they're struggling to give you anything, then that's going to let you know, okay, that might not have been such a good use of their time if they're not able to at least regurgitate one thing back for me. Luckily, Foundation for Tacoma Students and Graduate Tacoma has done a tremendous job gathering credible partners already. So always start there. What in particular are you looking for, and what resources have already been vetted for you? That's a great place to start. Obviously, the Gates Foundation does its own research already as well too, in terms of what's going to be credible. So anything that they're backing is going to be great. But once you find one credible source, lean on that one a little bit more in terms of what else or who else they work with.
Appreciate that, Rachel.
Hey, and I was going to say one thing, that one of the places you can look to vet things is sometimes they do fall on the What Works clearinghouse. Some programs do, if they're vetted and they're really substantially vetted, they'll fall under the What Works clearinghouse, and it's run by the Department of Education. They have a bunch of research-based programs, materials that are research-based, and so that's a good place to look and see if it's been vetted through them.
I appreciate that, Andre. And for those listening, we will be kind of compiling notes and whatnot, and have any and all of these resources that are mentioned here in a central spot. So appreciate that. All right, I'm moving to another question here. So there's a question kind of engaging parents. And one of the questions as phrased is, what is one thing, and only one, from your perspective, parents should do daily with regard to supporting their online student or online learner?
I'll take this one. To me, this is a little bit more from the mental health side. My tip already on the academic or the educational side is, teach me one thing that you learned today, whatever that looks like. And then one of the things that I firmly believe in, whether it's, your breakfast time or your dinner time, or that time when you're coming back, hopefully together as a family, it's, tell me the best thing that happened today and tell me the worst thing that happened today, because it's going to give you perspective of what your student is encountering across the board, right? Because we never necessarily know what might impact them very differently. Rule in our house is we get to have more than one good thing, but you can never have more bad things than good things. But we want to be able to respond and both celebrate, wow, that must have been exciting for you when you found out you did so good on your spelling test, or, oh, I'm sorry that, your friend didn't like your Instagram picture, or whatever it is. But either way, it helps us gauge what our student is feeling and facing on a regular basis. And even if it was a glimpse of the news or something that might have caused them some tremendous anxiety, at least by eliciting that, we know how to respond.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
the things. I actually sent an email out to my parents a couple of weeks ago, about a week ago, when we got school was ended, I just asked my parents to set up a time every day that is an academic time for your kids. They have to have that structure without school. They just can't be willy-nilly doing work when they want to. You have to set up some structure time. So that's what I'm asking my parents is to set up some structure time, even if it's just 2 hours. That happens every day at that time. That those kids kind of keep some type of routine with their learning. So that's my message to parents right now during these challenging times.
Appreciate that, Andre. Alyssa?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of Rachel's suggestion of, especially with younger learners, I encourage parents to just ask their kids questions, ask them what they want to do, right? Because that a lot of times can lead to a learning opportunity that then you can center around what their interests are. For young learners, for preschool, first, second graders, you know, they ask a lot of questions, and that could turn into a great learning activity. It's like, why is the sky blue, right? You can turn that into a science activity. And so little learners are naturally like scientists. So by asking them what they're interested in or a question that they have, you can build off of that and turn that into a lesson that's engaging for them because they're already interested in it. And it's more of a collaborative learning experience rather than a sit down, here's what we're gonna learn about today, and here's like this kind of pre-designed lesson. You know, play is at the center of a lot of early learning stuff. So turning them into playful learning activities that you're doing at home, that's kind of the core of what PBS Kids does. And it's really just how early learners learn. So it's easy. It's as simple as asking a question to your little ones and asking what they're interested in, what do they want to do today, and kind of following their lead.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alyssa. I'm going to go one more question for the panel and then kind of go through a little bit of Graduate Tacoma updates. But one of the questions here, so we talked about parents, what's one thing parents can do daily. There's also a question about how can quote unquote non-parents, so others, right? What can the rest of the community, and I would phrase it as well as not just thinking about our educational partners, but other potential sectors, our business community, so on and so forth. What other ideas from your perspectives could they do to support online learners and students? And I'll go with Rachel.
You know, there's so much that can be really done in support, but what we know is that it just takes one adult being engaged and showing interest to make a difference. So even if you can't see your kids, find some way to connect with them. One of the things that I recommend doing is coming back and setting a SMART goal. So what can I do to help you stay on track and keep you accountable to something you want to accomplish this week, this month, this by the end of this school year towards your college application? And spend that time with them drafting out what that means. A lot of students don't understand SMART goals. And so just teaching them that aspect and what it means. How do you know you get to count this as a win? And when do you get to say this is done and this is accomplished and you get to move on? So pick one area that's part of your expertise or one of the biggest needs that your student has around that, and set that SMART goal together and figure out what you're going to do to check back in with them and help hold them accountable, and what you're doing to help them celebrate the accomplishments as they do get through that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to chime in because I got to get off. I got another meeting in about 5 minutes. I think, you know, what we have to do, and I don't know who or anyone, because new soft skills are coming up for our kids, right? And so especially middle schools and high schools. And I think that one of the things that we got to help kids do is learn to do things that we do all the time. Check our emails. That's going to be part of something they got to learn to do now. You know, we send emails out every day to kids who work in, and kids normally don't check their email. They turn the emails on when we ask them to do it at school. So I think really getting them to a point that they learning to, you know, use this technology, like I said earlier, for learning, but actually using it productively. You know, they're on computers all day long and don't check your email that your teacher sent you a notice. So I think that teaching them the soft skills, the soft computer skills, is going to be important now that we already have, because we know how to, you know, I go walk in my office, the first thing I do is get my emails and see how many hundreds I have. So I just think we got to really teach them some soft skills when it comes to technology, and whoever around them can help them out with that. So with that being said, guys, I enjoyed the time with you all, and I hope we get a chance to do this again, but I got another meeting with the middle school principals in a few minutes.
Andre, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And yes, we will be following up. Definitely some questions flowing your way, but appreciate your time today.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alyssa, let's pass that to you just to close us out, at least with this part of the questions.
Yeah, this is it's an interesting question because I'm not a parent, right? But I'm a community member and I'm a concerned community member. And I think just in the time that we've been doing kind of our modified programs and some of the families and kids that I have seen at our sites, I think just relating to them, like they could be feeling like overwhelmed. It's hard. Like they miss going to school and they want to see their friends. And I'm like, you know what? It is kind of hard. It's hard for me too. And we're all having to adjust, and we're all kind of uncomfortable in this new arena that we're playing in. So I think a lot of times, especially for young kids who can be confused and overwhelmed with these things, is letting them know that we're feeling the same things. Like we're having to do stuff differently. We're having to interact with people that we want to see in person over computer screens and things like that. So letting them know that we're struggling sometimes too, and we're just all kind of making adjustments, and then just encouraging them to keep trying and to do the best they can, and that we're there supporting them no matter what.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to close the Q&A. Thank you, Alyssa, Rachel, Andre as well. Just for your thoughts, perspectives, tools, and everything you're sharing. I know today is one of those things where it's the start of a new normal, right? We've been talking about that, and we're going to be continuing to learn certain things. And we know y'all are very, very strong community partners, so I appreciate your time today. I did want to give just a few quick updates on some Graduate Tacoma and Foundation for Tacoma student news. For those of you who don't know, we had launched a website called tacomalearns.org, which is, and we're going to be sharing our screen here, which is a website that's searchable for basic needs resources, educational resources. Basically, it's community-wide supports in response to COVID, but that we're updating almost daily from news from new partners, other partners who are just flowing resources to us. We will continue to be updating that as we go through, as long as this is going to be lasting, right? Which could be a potentially long period of time. So tacomalearns.org currently is searchable for things like meals and educational resources. But moving into kind of the second update, we've heard loud and clear from partners, Tacoma Public Schools, and there was a question that popped up in the Q&A about how Tacoma Schools is thinking about access to technology and Wi-Fi. We are shifting and prioritizing helping to bolster public Wi-Fi access alongside some community partners, Comcast, local businesses. We've made the ask over the last week or two, basically to map out, okay, where in Tacoma are the areas where public hotspots are available and working, and how strong is it working? What's the capacity for these spots to potentially have students download their online resources and whatnot? But we've loaded that onto tacomalearns.org. One of the tabs there that you'll see, it's under free Wi-Fi, and this will also continue to be updated. So as we are trying our best to use an equity lens, there are certain areas of our community that have less access to not just Wi-Fi, but computers themselves, right? So not only are we looking to bolster kind of the Wi-Fi public hotspots, we're working in tandem with TPS and more than likely our business community and other funders to help with actual technology as well, computers, laptops, tablets, whatever those actual hardware needs are. But that starts with first an assessment on what are the needs currently. I know TPS kind of did a technology survey last week. We're going to need to be doing that ongoing as well. So this is very, very much emerging work for us. Honestly, just popped up over the last week or two. But this has been one of the, after basic needs, this has been the major need for our students and families as we're hearing from our partners. So this is how we at Graduate Tacoma, in partnership with Tacoma Urban League and all of our Graduate Tacoma partners, how we're trying to respond to that. But there will be more to come on that as we go. Again, this is all kind of a moving target for us, but we're happy to be pointing our capacity to help support there. So those are kind of the updates as to where we're at with regard to Graduate Tacoma news. I do again want to thank our partners, Alyssa, Rachel, and Andre, for being here to speak on where we're at Cradle to Career and engaging our online learners. Next week, we will be doing another Friday Forum, and we will be doing so until into June, but we encourage everybody to tune in next week. Again, it will be the date I'm losing. The date will be the 24th, I believe, at 1 p.m. For another conversation relevant to be supportive to our students and families. But with that, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our panelists, and we hope you all stay safe and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.